we should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
قديش عمرها؟
4 سنين.
Wherefore art thou Captain Marvel, a story told by David Carter. Starring David Carter as Captain Marvel, a man. No woman could ever play Captain Marvel because he was always a man, not a radical feminist.
Hello everybody. Shazam, the movie is about to be released on July 16th, around that time frame. And I've been looking forward to it, been waiting. I spent roughly $50 for a full-scale Captain Marvel costume. And it does have a cape on it, but as yet I haven't gotten it, so I'm simulating myself. But I wanted to do another video about Captain Marvel because I see this real hatred growing in America for what's good. I'm talking about how much projection of just downright meanness, hatred is being projected towards President Trump. People may not like the guy, but I think morality has gone to the point where it doesn't exist, because even when Obama was president, people respected him as president. And that's not true anymore of Trump, because they think Obama was the only great leader America's ever had. So if you feel that Trump is anything good, not only does our public react to that with hatred, YouTube itself is going after people who are saying things that they don't think we should be talking about. Especially if you're positive towards President Trump and what he's done in the 4 years he's been president. YouTube is using an artificial intelligent algorithm to seek out words and certain statements that people make that may be construed with them believing it will cause incitement. It is odd that when people say things against Trump, YouTube has no problem with that, even though in itself that causes also incitement. YouTube itself as an organization, because it's owned by Google, is run and operated by Barack Obama himself, because ever since he was president he had the control of this world through our media outlets. And that just not includes America either, folks. That's all over the world itself. Obama has that power. So I think it's I think it's a disgrace, to say the least, that America just sits by and lets people bash and really hurt President Trump, emotionally hurt him, physically, verbally, by any means possible. And if you watch the time frame when Trump was running for president, you had the Democratic Socialists using picketers, protesters, they paid them all the time, to go to his campaign rallies and say things that were hypocritical of Obama, only because they were then turning it around and using it against Trump. So sometimes you thought they were supporters of President Trump, but in reality they were there to hurt him because of the rhetoric they used in showing who their loyalties were for, and that was for Obama, that was for Hillary Clinton, because she was running for president. That hatred has gone 1,000, 1,000,000 times fold as far as this campaign of hatred towards President Trump. And YouTube itself goes to really the lowest level as a social media outlet, and tells all of us, the entire United States, we are not going to permit people to say things that are in a positive viewpoint of what Trump has done and what he continues to try to do for this country. The Illuminati, the socialists, the communists, the Democratic Party, their plan is simple: to wipe out the last of any freedoms we still have in America, to destroy liberty. If you need proof, it's been Obama since day one who's been saying we don't need guns. And every time there is some event that comes up regarding children using guns, people shooting each other with guns, it's an excuse to say we don't need them, so let's just ban them, get rid of them. Another thing that I just now thought of is how they continually use every instance where they're thinking there's inhuman treatment going on in these immigration camps, that they're making them drink out of toilet bowls, they're making them live in just unearthly conditions. And I think the media will never tell you the fact that Mexicans have, for the past 40, 50 years, lived in what's called rat traps. They live in really squalor conditions in Mexico because the Mexican government does not offer them anything. They have no health care except for whatever they're able to eke out. This is another reason why so many Americans go to Mexico for dental treatments. It's so much cheaper there because essentially they have no medical or dental services for its general population. So when they come up here, because of Obama promising them they won't have to go back to Mexico, guess what happens? The Democrats, the socialists, communists use it as an excuse to say it's Trump's fault that they're coming here in these kinds of conditions. And really for them, that's why you see the children smiling, because they're like, this is no different from where I came from. This is exactly how I still lived in Mexico. This is how I still lived in Colombia or Brazil or Guatemala. This is the kind of conditions they live in. And you've got the communists who want to destroy freedom in America saying we have to show much more consideration for these immigrants, even if they are coming here illegally. They're supposed to give every Mexican free health care when they come into the United States. That's what the communist socialists are saying. You and me as taxpayers, we have to pick up the tab for the Mexican who comes here. And then you look at the flip side and you say, well, we were forced by Obama for 8 years to pay for health insurance. And yet in Mexico, they didn't have to pay anything because the government said we don't offer that. Or if we do, it's only going to be through whatever you pay, which is probably nothing in pesos. And all you got to do is just sum it up, folks. You can see how communism is to subjugate people, control people, to destroy individuality, individual reasoning behind who you are, why you exist. America, to believe it or not, America today is worse than a third world country, because the government says we must give everything you've worked all your life for. We got to give it to somebody who's coming here illegally, who pays no taxes, who comes into this country and then expects the United States to give it to him free of charge, no questions asked. And when Obama was president, I saw this at my own health service. My doctor would be taking in these illegal immigrants, and they got everything free, didn't pay for anything that they were getting from the doctor. And to beyond that fact, they put priority on women, and they put priority on those Mexican women that were pregnant. In other words, they weren't here legally, they weren't entitled to any medical services at all because they are not they're not actually citizens of America, but they put priority on them for treatment, while somebody who lived here all their lives like me as a citizen, they say, you're not entitled to anything, because we got to show more respect and more consideration for a woman, a pregnant woman from Mexico. And then you think of also the fact that those who are pregnant in America today can kill that unborn child after birth. They can still kill it after it's born, and they don't consider that murder. They don't consider that any kind of crime against humanity when they kill those babies. And you're thinking, well, why are we putting priority on a Mexican child who's unborn when you already kill an American child after it's born? You don't put any priority on that. So here I am looking down on this planet that 40 years ago made sense. 40 years ago, we had it together. Everything was at least unified in a certain perspective of what we were trying to accomplish as a nation. And now today, I'm looking at total chaos, a total upside down world. And it's because, folks, people who now make the decisions for this country have one sole end result propaganda plan of action: to destroy everybody's freedom to choose what they want to do and destroy who we are and what we were as an America republic. Destroy everything we were, destroy who we were. And then they think it's going to be so much better because now society's going to have to accept the socialist dictator of Barack Obama. And those who are high on marijuana today, those who are on heroin, you never saw an influx of usage of these narcotics until the day that Obama legalized it. And then you started seeing people in thrift stores, in drug stores, in department stores, in supermarkets coming in there totally wasted. I had the same experience myself at a Goodwill. A woman came in, she went directly to the dressing room. When the store closed, we kept knocking on the door. Please, you gotta come out, you gotta leave, the store's closed. When we finally got the door open, she was totally wasted on narcotics. And when I saw that, I thought, this is now Obama's legacy. He legalized it. So now you see these kinds of addicts who came out of the woodwork just standing around, caring about nothing. We told her, you gotta go, you can't stay here anymore, you gotta go home. She went straight to her car, inebriated, like, you know, she didn't know where she was. Within about 5 minutes, I saw 8 police cars driving down the highway, and I knew exactly what had happened. She either hit somebody, or she totally went off the road because she was high on heroin. And the police, I'm sure, took her to jail, just like that. And today, people are saying over and over, we've got to buy more of this narcotine or narcotine, which is supposed to be an emergency treatment for people who do overdoses. I say it every single day. If these potheads want this crap, let them deal with it. Because the socialists and the communists are the ones who kept saying over and over again, we must offer people medical, we must offer recreational marijuana, we must offer every kind of a narcotic they expect of us, because that is the only way Obama's utopia can come about. And in a lot of ways, I'm glad I'm not down there on the planet. Because if I were, who knows? I mean, they could have beat me to death with clubs by now, because they don't like people who stand for what's good, for what's right. Instead, they're doing these laughably stupid movies about men who are now portrayed as women. And they're saying that woman is by any understanding more superior in intellect and physical strength than any man ever had. There is obviously a contradiction in terms to say that they're now comparing Supergirl being more important and more powerful than Superman. There is now a Captain Marvel that's a woman, and they're saying she ain't your counterpart, she's your superior, she is your master. And that's how they project women in general all over the world today. Women are better, women are superior, women are everything. I've learned it, I say it to all of you watching me today, it's called radical feminism. Radical feminism is just another overview term used like they do against people who they say are taking Islam literally. Because the Quran tells them, if they don't accept your beliefs as a Muslim, lop off their heads, kill them. Now, if Muslims and Islam were a religion of peace, there would be no such thing in their Quran. It is in their Quran. I say, woe be us who have to live around individuals who have a book that they say they practice every day and live by, and yet it says that violence and martyrdom are totally an acceptable lifestyle of somebody who is Islamic, who is Muslim. And then you'll hear these people laughingly tell you, oh no, that's not Islam, that's radical Islam. And it's like, but it's the same Quran. It's not two different versions of a Quran, it's one book. This is more the idiocy I see every time I look down on this planet. And I think, I feel like I should be Ultraman. I should just take off and go to another planet, because this planet's gone. It's unreplenishable. It's unable to recompense itself back to what it once was. And it's only been 40 years that it's taken for that to happen. Superheroes, folks, everything that society projects through television, through media, through social media, through every format of communication, it is projected at girls. It is projected for women. Who is a boy now? He is a background subject. If they show a boy in any commercial, it is pathetic. They show that boy being mentally deficient. He is incapable of living his own life because a woman must be there with him. There was a commercial done for Sara Lee Bread. They had this little boy, really cute, sitting there talking about, oh, this sandwich is for you. He bites into it, he goes outside, and there's a raccoon. He says, oh, you're as fluffy and cuddly as my bread is. No girl would have ever said that, because they would think, oh, but that degrades the feminine mystique. It's okay to put down boys. It's perfectly all right to make them look like idiots. Because the only thing that counts now and matters in our society today is a girl. is a woman. And watch it on television, watch it on commercials. How do I see all this stuff? Well, it's because I'm two separate individuals. Unfortunately, the other part of me has to live on that joke called Earth. But when I'm myself, they can't touch me because I'm up here. I'm flying around. They can't do nothing to me up here. But when I'm down there and I'm the other guy, it just drives you batty. We need somebody like Batman to come back again. We need somebody like Adam West, Burt Ward. You know, abandon your pet program. Get back into your tights. It's time to put men back in place as the dominant male gender, because it sure worked a heck of a lot better than anything they try to say is good about today in our society. That's the joke, ladies and gentlemen. Belief that a woman can physically be more stronger and physically more agile in what she does than any man. And that's how they project what they project on television, in the movie theater, everywhere. And there used to be a thing called the monogamous relationship. This is before homosexuality wasted and wiped out everybody's mental capacities. Monogamous relationship is between a man and a woman. And it was that relationship between the two of them. Now, there is no such thing as monogamous, because everything about life is now unnatural. It is perverted. It is, I mean, if we could hear God in heaven right now, He's laughing at us. He's thinking, you perverts are living totally the opposite of how He created us. And you've got the homosexuals, you've got transgenders, bisexuals, and they're all like trying to convince themselves, no, that's not true. I live the way I want because you think it's your decision, and yet it wasn't you that created yourself, it was God that created us. And that's what is so upside down about America, that's what's so upside down about the earth itself. People are now living for themselves, they're living for whatever they think they want it to be, instead of being responsible for what you do, because you know as surely as the sun sets and it rises, someday God is going to hold us all accountable for what we do in this country and what we do in this world. The more you pretend it's not going to ever happen, the faster it will. So many people who are gay have died. I guarantee you, they're not up there in the clouds, because when God looks at people, I know He looks at their heart, but He also said in His Word, these things are abominations. And that means judgment comes to those who don't live as God intended us to live. We are responsible, we are accountable for our actions, for what we do. And if you look the other way and you don't want to hear this, then nobody is going to be held accountable but yourself on Judgment Day. And that's when you stand in front of God and you have to answer for why you did the things you did. Why you murdered an unborn baby. Why you looked the other way when others were being brutalized and beaten because of their religious freedoms or their beliefs. Muslims do not have to endure those kinds of things, because these are the groups around the world who are being endorsed and forced on the rest of society. Now they're condemning and they're brutalizing, they're murdering Christians, and Christians do not commit murder on people. Muslims live that philosophy because it's in the Quran, and that is by itself a travesty for people to look the other way and say, we don't need Christians, but we certainly have no problem with Muslims, even if they do cut my head off. Whether they stab me with daggers, doesn't matter. Because it's giving them the consideration for their beliefs, while at the same time taking it out on somebody else. That's how people look at Trump. Trump's trying to do what's right. Instead of them trying to say, thank you, Mr. President, for what you're doing, what you're trying to do for America, and clapping for him, these people are like the senators who attacked and killed Julius Caesar. Every second, they were finding some way to get together in a secluded area and then use a knife or daggers. They literally stabbed Julius Caesar to death. And that is exactly the same scenario that President Trump faces every single day under the Communist Socialist Party. They attack him, they go after him, everything and anything they can find as an excuse. They don't blame it against Obama. They don't blame Hillary Clinton. They don't blame Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, Charlie Schumer, any of these other hypocrites from the Communist Socialist Party. They attack Trump because they think he, in some way or another, is responsible for why they act like they do. Why they act, why they carry out these kinds of philosophies. It is not Trump who started this. It was Barack Obama. Obama is the leader. Obama is the master, not only of Muslims, he is the master, and he is the spokesman for the Illuminati, for the Bilderberg Group, for every kind of organization that's ever existed in the world that had to do with a global socialist government. It is Barack Obama who is their Messiah, their Mahdi, their Antichrist. And people have said it now for 10 years. I say it again. Eventually, folks, the entire financial system that we know it, all over the world, will collapse. And when that happens, there won't be anybody to pick up the pieces. Because I still believe strongly the rapture will take place, and that will get rid of every person in the world who pays taxes. There's no taxes, there is no financial system to support just Muslims, the degenerate groups who make up atheists, and all the others who don't care one way or the other about what happens. Because then there's not going to be anybody left paying taxes. And then the socialists are going to have to force the very same people right now, they're cuddling, they're letting them into the United States in droves. They're going to be saying to these folks, now you've got to pick up the tab, because now all the rest of them who were paying taxes for 50 and 60 years, they're gone. There is nobody left. And Obama, right after that takes place, all he's going to have to do is say, you're going to show me loyalty, just like you've been showing me loyalty. Now you're going to take that mark. It's going to be on your forehead. It's going to be on your hand. You refuse it, you're dead. That's it. No questions asked. And then after he does that, he'll take up residence in Jerusalem. He's the one that probably will help push for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. Something that people denounce that President Trump has helped begin, because really, God said that the Third Temple would be rebuilt one day. And Trump has already now recognized that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. The Muslims hate that, because the Muslims know they weren't the original natives of Israel. The Israelites were the original Jews. Those are the people who are entitled to Jerusalem and to the state of Israel. Not the Palestinians, not the Hezbollah, not the Arabs, not anybody. Only God's chosen people can live in Israel, and that is the Israelites, the Jews. The Palestinians took up residence after God cast them out of Jerusalem. He was punishing them. That was in 70 AD. God said this, one day I will reconstitute the nation. I will bring them back, and they will be my people as they have always been, and they will live in my holy city. They're there. They're mixed with all kinds of other people, which God calls Gentiles. Then it says that God will permit those who make another temple, they're going to build it, not destroying the Dome of the Rock. They're going to build it next to the Dome of the Rock. There's a heck of a lot of space right there on the Temple Mount. And the Muslims, I don't know how they're going to accept it, except that Obama is going to tell the Muslim community, I'm your 12th Mahdi, I'm telling you all, we've got to give some unity to the world. We've got to be passive in letting the Jews live, at least for the time being, in peace. You'll have that temple built again right next to the Dome of the Rock. And then as soon as it's finished, Obama is going to take up residence, and that's where he's going to stay. And I am praying that God comes back very, very, very soon. Because the idiocy of the communists, of the socialist Democrats, they are in a tailspin. They have no clue what direction they're going to go, except they have to do what Obama keeps telling them. Keep it chaotic, keep it going, keep it all in focus until I announce to the world who I am. And when he does that, everything else I've just told you falls right into place. So for a superhero like myself, here I am right now flying around up here, and I'm thinking, boy, is this a much safer place for anybody to be, because I know what it's like down there. It's a mess. And even a superhero can't fix what idiocy has had in its place for the last 40 years, since you had the communists starting to take over. You've had morons like Hillary Clinton reading Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which also Barack Obama made it his Bible. And now there's not even a miracle that can even save this world except God coming back. When he comes back, he's going to put it all right. And all the Muslims in the world are going to see Jesus, and they're going to say, that's not Muhammad. That's not Allah. And then they're all going to be thinking, oh boy, have we got it wrong? Have we had it wrong? And then that's when Jesus says, when he returns against the Antichrist, for 1,000 years there's going to be peace on earth, because Jesus is going to take up residence in his holy temple. The Antichrist is going to be flushed into a pit where basically you've got Satan, you got the false prophet, Francis, all of Satan's demons are all going to be cast into this bottomless pit. Then they'll be released in 1,000 years, one final battle, they're out of here, all of them. Then God will have his final judgment on humanity. I know what you're all saying to yourselves, oh, Shazam, he's Greek. This is a Greek mythology. You're right, it is. But I'm standing here because he was my hero. And that's the point of this video. This point that I have to say to all of you is, boys today have no heroes, because women now are subjecting them, subverting them, suppressing their thoughts, their views, their opinions. And if they get to see something on television, the first thing the boy looks at is, it's a girl. The girl's the hero. The girl is the dominant figure in any television show. That kind of leaves him on the sidelines, sitting there looking at himself like, where do I fit into any of this? And women are like, you don't. You don't exist anymore. It's about your sister. It's about the girl next door. It's about your teacher at school. It's about your classmate who's a girl. It's about them. You are nothing. That's the point of my video about Captain Marvel, about Shazam. Elvis Presley loved Captain Marvel Jr. It's all over Graceland. Today, you've got people who are just denouncing the idea that a boy could ever be a superhero, because now they want boys to be nothing, only girls. And if I could do something, folks, from up here that really can make a difference to these children down there, all these little boys who have no hope, they have no message of encouragement from a male role model. You know, it's like most kids today have no fathers because women chose to have artificial insemination and it abandoned and dropped the male counterpart from a marriage, because now women are the only ones that are teaching their children anything. And all they want is to encourage the girl and denounce the boy. So he has nobody. That's the tragedy in our country today, ladies and gentlemen. That is the tragedy. And all I hope for, something good happens soon. This is my story.
قديش عمرها؟ 4 سنين.